going?
How's it going, Nick?
Hey, it's going well, Shane. It's going pretty well.
Pretty well.
Apart from the delay with our production, which we should probably make the listeners aware of or the watchers aware of. For those of you out there who've pre-ordered the Best Damn Nootropic Formula, our first product, we appreciate your support and thanks for purchasing from us. Just want to let you guys know that our shipping date has been pushed out a little bit by a couple of weeks to the 1st of July. The good news about all this is the reason for that is because we're committed to having a truly world-class product. A lot of manufacturers, what they do, a lot of supplement companies and people who decide to start selling any sort of health supplement, they go to a manufacturer who has X amount of pre-existing, usually low-grade product. Like let's say they want to create a protein, they'll go to a supplier and say, hey, we want to sell whey protein. And the supplier's like, sure, we've got a warehouse of 200,000 units of it. We'll just slap your label on it. That's called white labeling. And obviously with BDNF, we didn't do that. We formulated the product from the ground up, and it's a completely original blend, and it had to be created from scratch. And unfortunately, when you do that, it sometimes can incur delays, which is one of the things that's happened to us now. Is there's a particular issue with our labeling. Actually, we designed a really, really cool high quality label, and we wanted it to be just right. So it's taking a little bit longer than we expected.
Yeah, just to be clear, so it's clear to everybody too. Like Nick said, a lot of companies will just do white labeling where they're taking a product that's already made, they stick their label on it, and it gets pushed through. Not only did we not want to do that, we wanted to create a completely unique product. But we also did all the design. We started off with the designer originally. He kind of gave us an original concept, which is that kind of apothecary look. And then it didn't really fit with the label. And so I had to make a bunch of adjustments. And so at this point, I don't know how many revisions we've gone through, but, we're pretty, a lot. And so we're pretty deep into this. We really love everything we have so far, but because of the constant refinements and the going back and forth, there's a lot of emails, there's a lot of correspondence with the manufacturing company. And because of that, and especially with the world events going on right now, shipping and manufacturing and all this, just there's a delay. And we actually went ahead and we pushed the initial release back an extra week past what they said it would be, just because we anticipated there might be problems. Now it's going to be a little bit further. It's actually going to be July 3rd too, Nick.
July 3rd,
the first, it's July 3rd. Yeah, I want to make sure we're clear. Now we've been guaranteed that's going to be the release date now. I don't anticipate it taking any longer than that. Everything's been signed off on. I've talked to the manufacturers personally, and they've also assured me that there shouldn't be any other COVID delays related to the shipping. So July 3rd should be the hard line. And so it's very disappointing. We worked really hard to make sure that everything was done right. We tried to take into account the delays that could possibly be there, and we're still being surprised by these sorts of things. Unfortunately,
both of us having said that, I'm still super confident that all customers are going to be absolutely ecstatic with this product, because as I said, and as you just reiterated, the reason for these delays is it's because we want the absolute best quality, and we want to give you guys the best quality stuff. So I'm sure you'll be understanding when you get BDNF and you take it and it changes your life.
Yeah, not to overstate it, but yeah, it really is an exceptional product. I just had another person tested this last week for me here. It was hand poured, of course, because we're all of our samples now, but it was the same thing. It was just nothing but positive feedback, and it's easy to get emotional over it because I just want to get it out there. It's been almost a year now, and it's been a long road and a lot of hard work, and I know you're excited to get it out too, Nick.
I'm so excited, man. I mean, yeah, I just
yeah.
I guess enough said on that topic. We just can't wait to have the products in people's hands.
Yeah, so basically we just wanted to explain to everybody why there is a little bit of a delay and let you know that it's out of our hands. There's nothing we can do. We're doing the best we can, and I hope you'll bear with us. And, of course, if you ever have concerns, you want to reach out, we're easily reachable at support@100%.health. So feel free to email us, give us your thoughts. If you have questions about the product, that's the best way to reach us. So please don't hesitate.
So today we're going to discuss, truth be told, something I don't know much about, but I'm very interested in. It's the topic of mitochondrial health. And my understanding, which is largely from 12th grade physiology and a little bit of self-study after that, is that the mitochondria are the powerhouses of the cell. So your cell has your cell itself, if you think of it as a kind of microcosm, it's its own little person with its own little set of organs. One of those organs is called mitochondria, and it's responsible for generating the energy that the cell uses for all of its vital functions. Is that accurate, Shane?
Yeah, I think you pretty much hit the nail on the head. Like you said, there's different organelles. The mitochondria is the one that produces ATP, which is the currency of the cell, the energy currency.
And that's adenosine triphosphate, right?
Adenosine triphosphate, correct.
Adenosine triphosphate, and that's, if I'm not mistaken, the same stuff that when you take creatine, it's basically increasing the stores of ATP within your muscles, which allows them, because it's an energy source, it allows the muscles to contract for longer. Is that right?
Yeah, you would know better than I would. I haven't read about it recently, so I don't want to misquote. But yeah, generally it's something like that. There's a bunch of there's other factors, I think, why creatine is effective. There's thoughts about the leverage. Your muscles holding more water, more hydration as well. So I'd have to read about it before I want to get down that road.
Before we even, I know I'm totally sidetracking this or derailing this conversation, but while we're on the topic of creatine, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. I haven't used it for many years, but I'd like to start using it again because I hear nothing but good things. Like what has been your experience with creatine, Shane?
All positives. There's stuff called phosphagen back in the day, which is an EAS product, and I remember it working really well. I was probably 19 when I was supplementing with that. I put on a ton of water weight, probably 15 to 20 pounds. I got really strong. Wow. I don't know if it was just creatine in that product. There's a lot of, allegedly there was a lot of weird stuff happening in the supplement industry back then. And so, you heard of companies spiking certain products with, pro hormones and different things. So I don't know if it was just that, if it was just an exceptional product, if it was the additional sugar that was in it or what, but I did notice a major increase in strength. Now, I just take like a micronized creatine, I just take a monohydrate. And
how often do you take that?
Sorry?
How often do you take that?
Typically whenever I'm training. I haven't really been training regularly for a while.
Like before a workout or after a workout? Or
yeah, typically before, if it's the first week, even though the idea of the loading phase is kind of, there's a lot of different theories on whether or not that's necessary, because the idea is to get creatine saturation. If I'm first starting, I'll take it before workout and post workout, and I try to take it with a small amount of carbohydrates. Otherwise, typically just a maintenance dose of like 5 to 8 grams a day, typically somewhere in there. And I don't stress about it too much. There's other benefits that they find. They believe it has heart benefits and other cognitive benefits as well. So
okay,
I think
what's your thoughts on the potential? I've asked you this before, but just for the viewers, the potential kidney detrimental effects on the kidneys of creatine. I know there was a big scare about that many years ago when it first became popular.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember people talking about it. It's never been, to the extent of my knowledge, I've never heard of that being confirmed. It's hard to say. I'd have to look at like newer trials to see if anything came up. But when information like that comes about, usually it's passed around rather quickly in the health industry, and I haven't heard anything as far as the kidney issues in a long time even being discussed. So
that makes sense. Well, yeah, I'm happy to hear that, because I've been wanting to try it for a while, and or try it again. As I said, I took it when I was maybe 18 or 19.
Mhm.
And back then I was training so hard, and at that age with the like the positive hormonal milieu in your body, like you don't, I mean, if you're just doing anything, basically you'll put on muscle, right? Like, so
Yeah.
I could have attributed some of it to creatine, some of it to just being 19 and lifting weights. Like I don't know how well it worked, but I've also from the people within my social circle whose opinions on this subject, the subject of strength training and muscle hypertrophy, um, whose opinions mean something to me. Like no one's ever said a bad thing about creatine, so I think I need to get back on it.
Yeah, and it's the most researched nutritional supplement of all
That's right.
time.
I forgot about.
So when you
Now,
look at
why?
the
Just out of interest sake, sorry, Shane, I know you were going to say something else. My mistake for interrupting you, but you, I know when you were formulating BDNF, uh, was there a point where we were considering putting creatine into it, and then we didn't, or?
no, that was our pre-workout that we're also working on.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, and
I'm
I
just saying
felt
because of the
actually,
cognitive benefits of creatine, but I guess it wouldn't have fit the amount you have to take it in. It wouldn't have fit in the capsule format, right?
correct, and that's the idea of why most pre-workouts come in powders, because you don't want to take
Mm.
15 to 20 capsules. It's not practical, and
Okay.
you just don't want to deal with it. Part of the way, actually a large the main reason why our formula is in 3 capsules and it has the ingredients that it does is based on that fact that I initially wanted to have 2 capsules. I think 3 is really pushing it for a lot of people. But in order to get everything in the correct amounts, um, that was the only way we could do it. And so obviously if we added creatine, that's out the window. Um,
It's cool. It's cool to have 3 as well, I think, because then you can adjust your dosage in a pretty granular way, right? If it's just 1 capsule,
correct.
you can't really split that up. I mean, I guess you could, but then it involves opening the capsule and pouring half of it. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a headache, right?
Yeah,
Whereas
that's
3, you've got like 3 levels. You can be like, okay, small, medium, or large, right? Like, what am I going to do today?
yeah. And so if you look at our dosing recommendation for the BDNF, the full dose is 3 capsules. And that's for people that really want to get the full benefit from it. Coffee drinkers and people that drink, or take stimulants in the morning, whether it's caffeine or anything else, especially pre-workouts, we recommend that you don't use BDNF with it because of the fact that if it's combined with caffeine, you can get jittery.
Mm-hmm.
But with that 3 capsule dosing, you can take 1 and you shouldn't have the same issues with that. Obviously it's dose dependent. But because of the synergy with caffeine, you definitely want to adjust how much BDNF you're taking with it. So 3 capsules is fine. No caffeine. You won't get jittery. You won't feel the shakes from it because it's not operating on that platform. There's no other stimulants in it. But as soon as you add the caffeine, then you have to be, aware of the amount.
And that's a big thing that a big realization that I came to several years ago with regards to pre-workouts is that most of them are just caffeine delivery mechanisms, right? Like I remember there was a
Yeah.
big one, this was a long time ago, called Jack 3D.
Oh yeah.
And you look at the ingredients and it was just a huge amount of caffeine. And I had a friend who swore by it, and I said to him, I guarantee you, if you took the caffeine out of this product, you would feel almost nothing, right? It's literally just a caffeine delivery
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, and not just caffeine, but they have this thing called 1,3-dimethylamylamine, and I believe that was in Jack 3D. I know it was in other pre-workouts if it wasn't in that, but
Uh-huh.
that stuff got taken off the market because it actually increased blood pressure and had a list of other side effects. And
Oh, I didn't know that. Did not know
yeah,
that.
and so I would take it every once in a while. I actually ordered the 1,3-dimethyl just for myself
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't want to. Problem I have with most pre-workouts is that they're loaded with artificial colors and sweeteners. They usually contain acyl sulfate, potassium, and things that I don't want to put in my body.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would look at the active components and I go, okay, well, the 1,3-dimethylamylamine is a stimulant. I'll buy that and I'll give that a try. And then, I've played with that and mixing and matching with nootropics and other pre-workout things, and it gives you a good idea how each component works.
Mm-hmm. You said, was that the one you took? Because I remember when you were doing the final, putting the finishing touches on the BDNF formulation, you were taking a few different things in isolation, and there was the one thing that you took that you were just so wired I couldn't even really speak to you for a day. Was
Yeah,
that? It was
no,
that.
No, so the 1,3-dimethylamylamine is off the market. It's been off for a long time now.
Okay.
I took methylliberine, which is also called
Methylliberine,
dynamine.
that's it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and this methylliberine or dynamine is another one that I believe it's a xanthine. It's, I'd have to look at it again, but it had a steep drop off, so it would get you really spiked up, and then you drop off, and there'd be a pretty big crash.
Hmm.
I was also messing around with theacrine,
Okay.
and it's similar. The one has a little bit more of a broad curve to it. I can't remember which one it was, but they were both just overstimulating, and then again the drop off was just too drastic. And so,
Hmm.
when we were formulating it, we really wanted to make the best possible product, so we tried every combination we could, and even adding these caffeine. We even looked at two different forms of caffeine. Remember, we were going to do
Hmm.
the I
Yeah,
have to think of it.
guarana was one of them.
Well, guarana was in the very, very first version because I really like the caffeine profile of that. I really like
Hmm.
the way it affects your body and brain. Um,
And then
but
caffeine petrostilbene or something was one of them.
it was a
Terrace.
caffeine. So the caffeine pterostilbene, caffeine, dicaffeine malate was one, and I
Yeah.
think it was caffeine pterostilbene was the other.
Okay.
I might be incorrect, so don't hold me to that. But definitely dicaffeine malate. And I still like the dicaffeine malate. I haven't tried the caffeine pterostilbene, um, just because I haven't been able to get it. It's a very expensive ingredient, and just getting the
Hmm.
raw ingredient is what I'd want to test. So, needless to say, we didn't use that. And then at the end of the day, we also wanted people to have the option of drinking coffee if they really wanted to. And if
Hmm.
you're adding your own stimulant and then having people stack caffeine on top of it, it's just too much. I just don't think it's
That's a
good for
recipe
people.
for a
So
disaster. Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
it's like I said, if you're messing with caffeine and these nootropics in the kind of quantities that we put in, like alpha GPC, like 600 milligrams of 90% alpha GPC is a lot of choline, and it's the right amount to get the
Hmm.
desired effect. But if you're now adding dicaffeine malate in there and people are drinking coffee on top of it, I don't think it's gonna be a good experience. It's not gonna be the ideal experience. If people want to
Yeah,
add that on their own, they're more than welcome to. But as part of a responsible supplement manufacturer, we I don't think that we should be. I didn't think we should do it. So
agreed.
that's where
I
we're
mean,
at.
now to bring that was a hell of a segue. Thank you for entertaining me on that one.
Yeah.
So mitochondria, the powerhouses of the cell, they're
Yeah.
responsible for energy production. Um,
Yeah.
it's my understanding that several nootropic compounds are actually very beneficial to the mitochondria. Is that correct?
Correct. And okay, so going back to our formula, that's why we put PQQ and ubiquinol, which is the reduced form of CoQ10 in there.
Okay.
Um, just to go over PQQ real quick. So PQQ, it's also called pyroquinoline quinone. That's actually
Hmm.
what PQQ stands for. It's also called methoxidin, I think. Um, it's probably best categorized as a nutrient. It's found in a bunch of different kinds of foods, um, like kiwi, green pepper, I believe oolong tea, green tea, and parsley actually has the highest concentrations of it. It serves as an antioxidant, and also I believe it. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick so I can quote this accurately. Um, so basically, PQQ can increase the number of mitochondria and improve their efficiency by triggering a signaling protein known as Krebs. That's how it works. And Krebs stimulates the growth of new mitochondria.
Oh, okay.
And then in addition to that, PQQ also acts as an antioxidant to protect the mitochondria from free radical damage. So,
Nice. Okay.
yeah.
That's great to know. So one of the things I wanted to cover as well is just some well, I was going to say non-supplemental, but one of them is actually a supplemental way of maintaining or promoting mitochondrial health. One of the things I stumbled upon in my research is apparently this concept of grounding, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but it's basically
Yeah.
just putting the soles of your feet in contact with the earth. So not having shoes and other footwear and carpet/cement between you and the actual earth, so walking barefoot on grass. which I actually found there was some scientific evidence to back them up. There was a certain trial that showed, unfortunately I don't have it in front of me, but it showed an actual, a measurable effect from people doing that. But I mean, even if I hadn't read that, my instinct still tells me that that is a good idea, just because, I mean, purely from the fact that most of us, our feet are very weak and inflexible because we've been wearing footwear that kind of compromises their ability to do their job for so long. But also just, you know, on a weird kind of spiritual hippie vibe, I think there's probably something to having, you know, the soles of your feet on the actual earth and having some sort of energetic grounding. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Man, I just don't know. You know, I know what grounding is. I know a lot of people who believe in it very strongly. I don't know if it's necessarily like an electrical reaction, or if it's more, you know, the psychology about it, you know, just feeling, like you said, feeling the ground through your feet, feeling more connected to the earth, feeling more in touch with everything. And that could create, you know, a physiological response in your body, you know, perhaps creating more mitochondria, or, you know, however they speculate that it works. That at the end of the day, it works for some people. So, I think you should try everything. I think you should exhaust every possible avenue when you're trying to, you know, get to your ideal state. And so why not try it out? I've noticed I went to barefoot running shoes for a long time because I had bad back and bad knees. And the first thing I noticed is once I went to more of like a midfoot strike running and using the minimal shoes, that I had massive improvements in knee pain and back. I noticed my posture. Yeah, because those, you know, when you're elevating your heel, it just screws up your posture. And like you said, when you're barefoot, you're actually using all the muscles in your feet, and so it changes the way you move. And you know, it sounds kind of crazy, but even the way you perceive life when you're walking around, shoes add like an extra 1 to 2 inches, you know, depending on what kind of shoes you're wearing. And when you don't have that elevated heel, you definitely have a different feeling walking around. I don't know how else to describe it, but you do feel, you know, more connected, more kind of settled in. I don't know how else to explain
well, I mean,
it.
look, to me, when you described that, the image that came to mind was, there's a thing in martial arts, in judo in particular, and they say, if you want to throw someone, all you have to do is take his feet 1 inch off the ground, right?
Exactly.
And I guess, I mean, that's what shoes basically do, right? They take your feet 1 to 2 inches off the ground through the sole. And that is, I mean, yeah, it's disconnecting you. It's raising you from the, you're ultimately losing that connection between yourself and the plane on which you walk. And also your center of gravity is being raised. And I'm sure that plays some sort of not only physiological role, like I'm sure it affects balance and equilibrium in some way, but I also think psychologically as well, if you don't really feel grounded, right, I mean, like solid on your foundation, which is your feet, then it's less than ideal, right?
Well, you could think how it would change your nervous system because of that as well, right? So you're sending different signals to your body. Your muscles are reacting differently. Yeah, it's you know, the modern athletic shoe is really
over-engineered.
Over-engineered, but more so probably one of the most destructive things that you can do to your body, just daily wearing them. And again, not letting your feet develop the muscles and coordination that they should have naturally.
I'd love to hear you speak a little bit more about this, Shane, because I mean, from again, I don't have science to back this up. This is just me running on instinct, but I've always been, you know, I wear shoes. I wear like my Adidas, but whenever I purchase a pair of sports shoes, I always choose a pair that has that looks relatively simple and that has as little cushioning as possible in the sole, because I've always been very skeptical and also distrustful of, you know, there's that trend, or there's been this trend, like first it was Nike Airs, and then it was Reebok Shocks, or was it Reebok Shocks or Nike Shocks, and then Reebok had their own thing, and everyone had this kind of huge, as I said, over-engineered kind of sole, and to me it didn't make sense. I mean, like sure, it might be comfy in the short run, but as you said, like it's kind of breaking that feedback loop between your mind and the soles of your feet, which does not seem like a good idea to me.
Yeah, the other thing with all those like air shoes that have the big cushion, the thing I've noticed when I've bought those in the past is the center of them begins to collapse faster, and so your feet actually kind of bend on the outside edges. You kind of collapse through the center. And I was getting a lot of nerve pain in the bottom of my feet from it. And up here I'm in Washington. It rains a lot, and I actually wear wrestling shoes. Probably 80% of the time. I wear tennis shoes out if it's raining, if I need a little bit of sole, but it's funny. I was training the football team here, and they'd always laugh at me because I come in wearing wrestling shoes, and that was my daily wear. But when you're lifting, you also want to be connected. You look at people that lift and do like a lot of the Olympic lifting. They lift barefoot, the power lifters, because you don't want to have that heel on there. Yeah, and all the weightlifting shoes are the same. They're very flat. So I just don't know why people wouldn't wear the wrestling shoes around. One, they're doing the same thing as the barefoot. Obviously you don't have the toe dexterity. You don't have the individualized toes in there.
Mm-hmm.
But that also means you don't get stared at when you walk in the supermarket. So there's some benefits to that.
Yeah, I remember I had one when they first came out, the Vibram 5 fingers. I got a pair of those. I mean, literally, this is before anyone knew what they were. And I went home to South Africa on vacation, and I was wearing these things around. And I remember I was walking in a shopping mall, and it would happen on several occasions that people would come up to me and be like, "Where did you get those from? What's that about?" Like they couldn't really process it. What's your take on those 5-finger shoes? Because I remember I've owned one pair, and they were okay. I mean, I never really they were decent. I didn't remember any real massive positives or negatives. I mean, I'd be interested to hear what your theory is.
I assume you didn't do a whole lot of running in them then.
No, I didn't run. I went on a few hikes, definitely wearing them, and I found that they were definitely felt a little bit more stable. But also my feet would get pretty sore sometimes. I think I remember that.
Yeah. So one thing, if you're traveling on uneven ground and rocks, it's pretty rough. You can beat your feet up pretty bad. So that's one thing that gets people where they're. So okay, there's a lot to it. I love them. I think they're great. When you first put them on, it feels like your feet are being molested by your shoes, which is a little disconcerting. Just the way it goes between your toes feels very unnatural. So at first I was just, as a kid, I remember just being bothered by socks. I could only buy like one specific type of sock because if the seam was off a little bit, it would drive me crazy all day and I would constantly be fidgeting. So initially that really bothered me. I adjusted to it pretty quick. They have the socks that go with it. Now here's the problem. If you do start using them, you're going to get blisters in weird places. And the thing that I messed up with when I first got them was I decided to go out and just take them for a run. And I got about maybe a mile and I felt like I tore both my calves. Like when you're not used to running on your toes and really you don't have all that additional sole and that rubberized sole in the bottom, you don't realize how I guess inadequate your musculature is in your calves. You're just not using them properly. And so, yeah, it destroyed me. I couldn't walk for like a week and a half. I mean, I was in like just horrible pain. And so when I went back, I would put them on. It took me about 3 weeks probably before I could run in them again. And so I would do a quarter mile at a time. I would go, run a quarter mile and just walk in them and just get used to them. And now I can run in them fine. I don't really use them much anymore. I just throw on my wrestling shoes because they're easy and they have a little bit more padding for, when you're running on terrain. If you're on hard ground, you step on a rock, I'm not going to get a stone bruise on the bottom of my foot. And they just look, they don't they look better. They wear better. God forbid I get in a fight on the street, wrestling shoes, I'm good to go. There's a lot of benefits to having those and I just personally choose to go that way. And the fact that they're probably a third as expensive as Vibrams, depending on what brand you get, but you can get a pretty good pair of Asics wrestling shoes for, $30-$40 if you look around.
No way. I didn't know they were that inexpensive. I think I need to get myself a pair of wrestling shoes, to be honest.
Yeah.
So we've been jumping around and it's totally my fault. I assume all responsibility, but I still think it's been an interesting conversation. Coming back to the mitochondrial health, the supplemental, what's the word I'm looking for? The way we can affect mitochondrial health through supplementation besides nootropics. I've also been found through my research that apparently magnesium is absolutely vital for mitochondrial health and mitochondrial detoxification. Now, why that I'm interested in talking about that is I've been using magnesium I've been using it on and off for many years, but magnesium started to actually affect me negatively, oral magnesium. I was taking L-threonate form, which is supposed to be the best form because it crosses the blood-brain barrier and can get into the tissues of your brain straight away, unlike glycinate and some of the other forms. But I started to have this strange side effect where magnesium was making me, when I was taking L-threonate capsules, it was making me groggy and a little bit moody the next day, which I've never heard of anywhere else. I haven't found anyone else who's found that same thing, but I guess we've all got our own physiological quirks. So then what I started trying is elemental magnesium oil, which you get in this bottle. You can get it from Amazon or anywhere, and you just spray it on and rub it on your skin. And man, that stuff it's strange. It does the opposite thing. Not only does it relax me, it just puts me in such a fantastic mood. And I'm wondering if that's because of the mitochondrial effect it has, or do you have any insights on that, or any thoughts on that?
I don't. Part of the problem is the way I'm constantly like reading and looking at things. I'm glancing over so much stuff. The way I retain information is like, I look at something and I'll find like the benefits and I go, okay, great. I remember this because of A, B, and C. But a lot of the technical stuff just kind of gets lost until I go and revisit it. Magnesium is something you need. Most people are deficient in it. I take the 3-and-8, but I don't notice a significant change in anything. So
Okay.
yeah, but the same thing going back to like blueberries with me. If I eat too many blueberries, I notice depression sets in like right away. That's strange.
Wild.
I've never heard of that.
Why do you think that is?
Don't know. I really don't. We all have a very specific fit. Our physiology is specific to our our own bodies, our own, all the chemicals. We're just giant sacks of chemical reactions, basically.
Yeah, and
So
that brings up
knows?
something really undersold in the world of health, which is that there is no real one size fits all solution to any aspect of health, because we are all inherently really different, right? Like human beings are by definition unique and different. Sure, we all have 2 arms and 2 legs, and we all have used the Krebs cycle to process food and generate energy, and there's certain things that everyone experiences, but yeah, we all have a different makeup and all have our own quirks. And yeah, I think it's something that people don't give enough credit.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. We're we're all very unique, and who knows? You again, goes back to, you have to find what works for you, and we're all responsible for our health and for our own development. And I think it's careless and lazy to just trust doctors with our bodies and minds. And I think it's important, if you value anything in your life, you should value your health and your ability to function at the highest level possible. And so you should really, even if you take 20 minutes a day and just read about, just health. I think it's important. I think we all have to take responsibility for that. And hopefully we're helping to kind of spread that message and get people on board.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, and that's one of the reasons you and I became such good friends, is I think we both have a central tenet to our philosophies, which is that your health is your responsibility. It's not your doctor's responsibility, or your parents' responsibility, or your employer's responsibility, or healthcare company's responsibility. It's your responsibility. And most people kind of abdicate that responsibility or farm it out to someone else. And then, I get it. I get why some of them do it. I'm not making a judgment, but to me, it's just not the most efficient or smart way to do it, because it's one of the reasons we're in such a shitty place, especially in America, when it comes to health, is your doctor cannot know exactly what's going on in your body, because he's not in your body, right? He's just not in your body. So, and also he's been trained by a medical system which is operating with the fundamental premise that a human is a human is a human is a human, and that we're all the same, right? Which is not necessarily the case, as I made the point about earlier.
Yeah, and if I can interject real quick too, one of the things, going back to what you're saying about the doctor isn't in your own body, they also have very strict parameters that they have to work within. So even if it's not necessarily, even if they know something is a good treatment for you, and the standard medical model isn't, because of the fact that they could be sued if they step outside those guidelines, they can't really make those
recommendations.
Yeah, those recommendations are outside the box to you specifically. So you know, again, they operate under a one size fits all model a lot of the time, and I think that's you know, it is what it is. I don't know what else to say about it. So I didn't mean to divert, but I think a lot of people don't realize that a lot of times when doctors recommend something, it's because that they are somewhat forced to through the you know, the paradigm that they're, or the system that they're working in. So
yeah, I just had this interesting thought. You know, there's an expression that no one cares as, I mean, I read this in it was a book on wealth, and it said no one cares as much about your money as you do. So you should be very skeptical about entrusting it to anyone else. And I just realized it's the exact same thing with health. No one cares as much about your health as you do. So why would you want to farm it out to someone or put it in the hands of someone else who doesn't care as much about it as you do, when it is the most valuable thing you are ever going to own?
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. You could be the richest man in the world. And if you're, you know, an invalid, if you're stuck in bed, if you're, you know, too sick to go out, you have nothing.
What's the point? Yeah.
Which is, you know, what's so disturbing about this whole COVID thing, that everything was shut down and people were confined to their homes, you know, largely because they didn't understand what was going on, and they just shut everything down. And it's really been the downfall for a lot of people as far as their health, their mental health and physical health has been concerned. So pretty sad.
Coming back to mitochondria. Damn, this has been a meandering one. Again, all these things, I would suggest we both suggest with all our listeners that they do every time we make a recommendation, go check it out for yourself, research it for yourself. We're just telling you our experiences and what we've learned. So what I've learned is that you need to support your mitochondria through supplementation, including magnesium being one, certain nootropic compounds, including what was it? Ubiquinol was one, and whole coffee fruit extract was the other one.
Sorry, what was it?
Whole coffee fruit extract, was that the other one?
No, that was for, I mean, it could affect the mitochondria, but PQQ is what we're discussing.
PQQ, sorry, that was it. Prolo, quinoline, quinone, right?
Yeah, very good.
And then also the grounding may have some potential benefits for that, although that's the science on that is a bit skeptical. I know sleep as well. I mean, sleep is basically, let's be honest, sleep is a cure-all for anything, right? It's literally a panacea. Like, if you have any issue, the first question I would always, in fact, what I say to my clients that I work with is like, how's your sleep? Like, what's your sleeping pattern like? Because that, to me, sleep is one of the foundational pillars of health. And if that's out, we could do a whole episode on that, but if that's out, then taking supplements is probably going to be a waste of time. You should first do things like sorting out your sleep patterns.
Yeah, but one other interesting thing, I believe one of the other added benefits to PQQ is a reduction in cortisol. And so they attribute better sleeping patterns to that when you're supplementing with PQQ as well. So yeah, it's interesting.
Cool. And we know cortisol dominance is such a huge issue in the modern world because of nutritional deficiency or negative nutritional impact and
blue light.
Blue light, yeah.
That's critical. Yeah.
Cool. I mean, is there anything else you want to add on mitochondria, Shane?
No, I appreciate everybody sticking with us this long if they have, because man, we took some turns and ran around the bend a bit, but I'm really enjoying this. Yeah. I mean, I hope people are getting a benefit from this. You know, I enjoy these conversations we have, and hopefully, you know, we'd love to get feedback. So if anybody has anything to share, you know, reach out to us at support@100%.health. Love to get feedback, and make sure to follow us at 100% for life on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. So, Nick, you have anything else to follow up with?
No, but that was great. Look forward to the next one.
Cool. Appreciate it.